The question of why the moss is green, the leaves are orange, and the sky is blue all starts with the sun. The sun is an ongoing nuclear explosion sustained for 4.5 billion years, and it keeps us alive. It emits a radiation that can explain many ways of transmitting energy, like the colors in light, for example. The more energetic radiation has a shorter wavelength, such as cosmic rays, gamma rays, and the same kind of X-rays they use in hospitals. The middle of the range is a visible light spectrum, in between ultraviolet and infrared. We can visibly see that narrow band in between 350 nanometers and 750 nanometers, but nothing else. Energy with longer wavelengths generate heat, like microwaves that we all use in our kitchens, and even longer radio waves that we listen to music on. Colors, as we understand them, are nothing more than filters, sending this narrow band between 350 and 750 nanometers through a filter turns it into color. Prisms split, rather than filter, this light into visible light spectrums, and we can see that every time we see a rainbow, when raindrops react as prisms. Now dye, like in clothes, can act as a filter too. Blue dye, in these shorts, filter out everything but blue, sort of soaking up the rest. Shorts then only reflect blue light. The same goes for the red shirt, or orange, yellow, green, indigo, violet, and all the colors in between. Now, white objects reflect all colors. By that I mean they don't absorb any. That's why rooms with white walls are brighter, because they reflect more light energy. Black objects, on the other hand, absorb all colors, which is why black rooms are darker than white rooms. Humans, having adapted and evolved as daytime predators and scavengers, are similar to primates, like monkeys, gorillas, and orangutans. There are very few nocturnal primates, so they have adapted to life in the daytime, where there's an abundance of white light. Taking advantage of this abundance of light, primate eyes evolved very similarly, with highly adapted parts called cones. When light passes through the pupil, it strikes the back of the eye, where the light receptors are located. You can see here the narrow rods in blue and the various colors of cones. The rods are designed to work at night, when light intensity is low, and are very sensitive to the light intensity. But cones are sensitive to light frequency, and it is the cones that determine whether or not you can see color or not. There are 3 types of cones, S, M, and L. Each one is sensitive to a different part of the spectrum, shown here. If your eye is missing any of those cones, like S, for example, you would be colorblind or near colorblind to indigo and violet, and only ever see intense blues, because M-type cones allow you to see some blues. Animals that only see black and white, like some dogs, don't have any cones at all, but instead can see in the dark very well. Most of our cones are at the very back, very middle of our eye, very densely packed into a very small space. The rods, however, are everywhere. This is why our pupils change size. The bigger our pupil, the more light enters the eye. The smaller the pupil, the less light. The pupil also focuses the light onto our cones during the day, when we have tiny pupils, or allows more light to strike the rods at night, huge pupils. This is an example of what a colorblind person would see at a traffic light. If they are blind to the M-type and L-type cones, they cannot easily see green or red, but rather interpret them as the nearest color they can see, in this case, yellow. This is a psychology test to see if you are indeed colorblind, and what you are colorblind to. It is called the Pseudo-Isochromatic Plate Ishihara-Compatible Color Vision Test, or PIP, by Dr. Terence L. Wagner. You have 3 seconds to look at each image and guess the number that you're supposed to see. Write that number down. This is an example. You should see an orange 16. If you cannot see the color orange, you would only see green dots. So you'll see how you do for the next color test, and be sure to mark down your answers.